When we started, we were really about more like post-hardcore doom stuff. But I think as a different musician, we all really enjoyed black metal, and I think it was quite natural for us to pass from doom to something like more black metal. But we wanted to do something more aggressive. Also, all about the atmospheres, of course. We wanted to keep something more hardcore, more chaotic. Some of us comes from very experimental, chaotic bands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Matt here from Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. I hope that you had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox&Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter, and if you are ever in Montreal, trust me when I say this, if you are looking for a killer show to go to, Heavy Montreal will have you covered. I am beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that just loves extreme music and loves craft beer, well, you should definitely let them know that the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast exists. You could tell them that there are over 400 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while enjoying craft beers. If you would encourage one of your metalhead beer-loving friends to become a brand new Vox&Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today in the podcast, I'm very stoked to be with Lahyani of Rorcal I. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox&Hops episode number 445.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm very stoked to be with Lahyani of Rorcal. Ron, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
I love how this episode came together. A lot of the times Vox&Hops episodes are either like directly my friends, and I reach out to my friends and they come on the podcast. The first 100 episodes were like that. And then I started doing publicist episodes where publicists would send me artists to be a part of the podcast. And now here, this is a special one, because my review crew released their top 5 albums of 2023, and my very good friend Jerry Monk, Vox&Hops' metal architect, put your record, Rorcal's Silence, in his number 2 spot of 2023, and that is how this episode came together, so I'm stoked about that. Long introduction, just to say, I'm happy to have you here, I'm happy to have Jerry Monk in my life, and I'm happy that he has good taste in music, right?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here too.
Vox&Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives and music while enjoying craft beers. Now, it's a little cold where you are, and you're not quite in the mood for a beer, but what are you going to be drinking today, Ron, that you're going to be sharing with everyone here?
Well, I'm gonna drink some very regular mint tea.
Mint tea, very nice. I made one for my wife yesterday. She's fighting a cold, and I made her a mint tea last night.
Yeah, it's good for the freezing weather outside here in Switzerland.
Well, it sort of fits the thematic of the chat I have set for us, talking about black metal, talking about Satanism, talking about all those wonderful things that really goes well with cold weather and mint tea. On my side, I'm going to be drinking a Kahnawake Brewing beer. This is a very cool brewery from here in Montreal, just outside of Montreal in the province of Quebec. They are on a native territory, and they are the first native-owned brewery in Canada. I could be right there. I could be wrong there, but I feel like I got it right. This is a Kōkua Project. It's a Session IPA, middle of the day for me here, so why not a Session IPA? 4.2%. This was a project that I've had a few of these Kōkuas before, and it's benefiting those impacted by Maui wildfire. I'll say that again. By Maui wildfires. So good project, good brewery. Let's see if it's a good beer. I'm going to crack this, pour it out, and Ron, I would love to hear about your very first beer.
My very first beer. It's a teenager thing, right? It was maybe more than 20 years ago.
Exactly.
We have this place in Geneva, just next to the main train station, called the Brasseur, and they brew their own beer. It's very regular. like Pilsner beer, but they're quite all right. And it's kind of the place to be when you're a teenager and you want to, have your first beer experiences.
Very nice. So
You,
were
you
they
can,
lax? Is there a legal drinking age in Switzerland? I can't remember.
the legal is 16.
Oh,
Uh, I might have, yeah,
stretched it a
a
little.
little bit the thing to, I was maybe a bit younger. But what is cool, it's they have this like huge tubes,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and there is like 5 liters, I think,
Yeah.
or 10,
With the
even 10.
taps on the
Exactly, with
on
the
the tables. Yeah.
And so you gather with friends and you have this thing in the middle of your table, and it's a really, sharing thing experience. And then you're just a kid, so you vomit and
You have to make room for more is typically what happened. What is I can't remember. I toured Switzerland a bunch of times. I have great memories with the Decrepit Birth guys on bicycles in Zurich. That was really very cool experience, honestly. But what is the beer like? Like here in Montreal, we have Molson that's everywhere. What is like the standard beer of Switzerland? Because I can't remember. Like
There's several.
Jupiler is like the shit beer of Belgium, I want to say.
For ages, like everywhere else, there was like huge industrial beer, and we have a huge industry. The biggest, I think, is Cardinal. It's in Freiburg.
Okay.
And we also have a lot of German beer. Is Heineken is
Heineken
German?
is Dutch, but I imagine at this point
Dutch.
it's such a huge international conglomerate. But
For
at the
years,
roots of
it was like Heineken beer, and about 10 years ago, it all started with more crafted little microbrewery stuff like this trend. And now when I drink beer, I mostly only drink beers that are brewed in Geneva.
nice.
We have
So what would you gravitate towards? What style of beer? If you're going to go to a little microbrewery in Geneva, what
for
and
years
give some
I
shout
was
outs to local Genevan breweries. Where would you go? What's the name of a place that you would go, and what style beer would you get?
one that I really enjoy called the Brasserie du Virage. It's what is virage? It's a
Virage
turn.
means like when you turn, right? Yeah, it's like when you're on like a highway and there's like a sharp turn to the right.
It's in the countryside of Geneva, and the fabric really is in a virage.
Oh, and with that, see that they had no choice but to name it that.
It's actually an interesting place because you can also bring your fruits, and they will do all the distillery thing.
Really? Oh, very cool. To make like you can bring like prunes or stuff like that, or apricots, or very nice, very cool. And style of beer, what would you gravitate towards?
I was all about IPA for years, and lately I really enjoyed some, regular blonde beer.
That's what happens. Yeah, we get fed up. We get hopped out.
Yeah,
I'm stuck with it because I got the podcast.
It's easier to drink, and you
yes,
feel like it goes well with your thirst, right?
yes, it's not too heavy. Albeit this Session IPA is working right now. I'm appreciating that. Shout out to Drew, the owner of K-Town, for hooking me up with this one. Take me to the soundtrack of your youth when you were growing up in your parents' or guardians' house. What music was playing when you were not in control of the radio? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
My father is jazz drummer.
Oh, very cool.
No, it's not his work, but he plays the drum, a passion for as long as I can remember. And so yeah, in my youth, it was all about jazz at home. Really standard jazz like Miles Davis, Louis Armstrong, really, really standard things. And a little bit of rock also, like old school rock, like the Beatles, and very standard stuff, mostly jazz and a little bit of rock. And from my mother, it was a lot of classical music. She had this very, classical education. She's a pianist.
Okay, so house of musicians. I love that.
Yeah. And we went to the opera together, and So yeah, it was a mix of very classical stuff as well.
Very cultured. I like that. How is having just spoken to Johannes, it's like fresh in my mind, the culture in Sweden of giving opportunities to young children to explore music and have music be a part of everyday life the same way that sports would be. Is it like that in Switzerland as well?
There is a huge offer for kids and music. Yes. In addition of a regular music class at school, there is like so many concert hall dedicated to the children and
That's
stuff.
awesome. For them to practice or for them to perform or both?
Both, and to listen also, to discover.
Yeah, because that's what you got to do, right? People don't understand this. Like all these people there's these virtuosos out there that can just do it, but if you're not exposed to what it is in the first place, like even going and witnessing a live music performance is so essential for the growth of a musician.
Of course.
Super essential. At what point did you start bringing in, or did you get the bite of drums in your life? Was it then? Was it at school? Was it your dad's jazz kit?
I played a lot of piano when I was kid, and
was that by choice or was it a strong recommendation from your parents?
Yeah, like more of a strong recommendation than. And when I was maybe 12, I think my dad bought his a new drum kit, and he allowed me to play on it a little bit, and it grabs me. I really find it like I was more comfortable. It was also going with what I was listening for myself, and I took few lessons, and quite quickly I start playing with bands when I was maybe 13 or 14. I was in high school, and I start playing in like punk ska bands. It was
nice. Yes, it was all the rage.
Was all the rage back home, right?
New metal came around again. Let's see if ska comes back. I'm not sure. My wife would be happy. I still say that skanking is the ugliest dance. I'll take a mosh pit over a skank pit. Was your mom disappointed that it wasn't classical music that resonated with you? Was it something she expected of you?
Not at all. No, absolutely not. Again, it's we're all about the music passion, and there was no more intention than just enjoying
exposing
music. To exactly. Something funny lately, they my mother sings also in a classical choir, and my dad got his band. Jazz band, and for the first time, it was maybe 2 months ago, the three of us had a gig the same night.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
But then, like your family, friends, this when you see where your alliances lied, who they went to go see that night.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. What was that first song that you mastered, let's say, on the drums as a young child, as a 13-year-old, as a 12-year-old?
Because I was all about Slayer. So,
oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
That was the first thing. It's like I'm gonna be Paul Bastard. I'm gonna be Dave Lombardo.
So I took the slowest Slayer song, which might be South of Heaven. I think I was working on that.
Hell yes. What was your parents' reaction to the extreme music coming into the house?
They were quite all right, actually.
They didn't buy you headphones? Or?
I think that they were genuinely happy that I took a really interest in music.
And at this point now with Rorcal, do they follow? Do they, like my dad used to come to gigs back when he could still do that. He was so proud. Is that something that's happened to have your parents come to a Rorcal show? Have they witnessed the intensity?
Yes, they did. They come when we have a release show.
Oh, very cool. That's so cool. I love that.
And we have a big like music festival in Geneva, but it's not like a big open air. It's Fête de la Musique. It's more about all the local bands in small stages all around the city, and it's free for everybody. And from time to time we play there, and they come also around in this situation. I wasn't expecting to talk about my parents, actually.
I'm sorry. I love to dig deep into people until I get who you are, and then we build up into where you're at now. I work as an early childhood educator, so I feel like there's a lot that goes on in childhood that helps frame a person, and we don't know each other that well. So I like that. This is what if we were sitting down and drinking beer together, I'd probably be poking these questions anyways. Talk to me about Hummus Records. This is something that I find interested. A shout out to Chris Knopf, who is how I know about Hummus Records. Your Rorcal is like a really Swiss enterprise because Hummus Records is a Swiss-ran label. It's a booking agency as well, if I'm correct there. Talk to me about being in a relationship with them. How long have you been working with them? I know Silence was on it. Have you always worked with them?
Yeah. First, Hummus is not a booking agency. They share the name with Chris, who is a booker with the name Hummus, but Hummus Records has
two separate entities.
Yeah, it's really separated. So Silence is the third record with Hummus. First one was Muladona in 2019, and then we had the split with the Earth Flesh.
Yes.
And Silence is the third. Before that, we were way more DIY. We worked with smaller labels, and we do that, that kind of congregation of 10 or 12 labels and doing stuff like that, like many bands.
Yes. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And Jonah, who is the boss in Hummus, is a friend of us from the music. He used to play in this band named Kelvin, and our singer used to play also in this band, and we had a split, Kelvin and Rorcal, about 15 years ago. So we were like a bunch of friends. We were not from the same cities, but we knew each other for ages. And then Jonah came to play with this big band, The Ocean, as a guitarist. Also with Luke, as a drummer, and Louis as a bassist. And now Luke, Jonah, and Louis are the member of Gorgons. And when they really, it's a little team that they really start to want to live with the music. And I think in this this energy, Jonah created this label about maybe 10 years ago. And so when we were looking for a label for the Muladona, because we were a little bit tired of this old DIY thing.
It's a lot of work. Cryptopsy was independent for over 10 years, a little bit less than 10 years. And I can tell you, it's tiresome. You need to have a lot of people wearing a lot of different hats, and they have to wear them properly. It's much more fun to be on a label and to point your finger at the label and say it's their fault if something doesn't work, rather than one of your bandmates.
You're the problem.
Yes, not us.
And so yeah, we asked Jonah if he could be interested in signing us, and he said, yeah, sure. I wasn't expecting that. He said, I thought you were much more about freedom. You were too much about freedom to want to sign a label, but yeah, sure. And it was a really good choice, I think.
I think so too. Absolutely. I agree with Cryptopsy jumping on Nuclear Blast. It's a lot has changed in the past so many years of being independent. The tool of social media, and you run the socials for Rorcal, so you understand this more than anyone else in your band, maybe, is that you have to be on top of everything all the time, and the algorithm is always working against you, versus a few years ago where you could just put a post out on the internet and then all your X amount of followers would see this post. Not like that anymore. So to have a label that has the infrastructure for distribution, it's another huge thing. What a nightmare, mailing out CDs. I don't know if you have flashback nightmares about these. Print, and then of course that's the one day that your printer doesn't work, right?
Of
you gotta
course.
write everything by hand. No, we're not doing that anymore. So good for you. And I wonder if Jenna was inspired by Robin and Pelagic Records to take control of his own musical journey. I have to ask him about that.
Yeah, maybe if you have the opportunity to talk with him, I think he's a very interesting person to speak with about the music business in general.
I think it's so interesting, all these, I call them smaller labels. I don't mean this in a bad way, but like not one of the top 5 labels that are, there's so much work and they're still successful and they're still pushing everything along and they're building up these bands. And then, hypothetically, Rorcal will get to the level where you get an offer, your contract expires with Hummus, and then you get an offer from someone bigger. And then that person has to watch their baby leave the nest and have that feeling. Are they proud? Is there a little bit of, I love that stuff. I had Robin on the podcast. I asked him that exact question. Talking about black metal, it's something that's foreign to me slightly. I listened to a little bit of it. I enjoyed the record. I enjoy what you do. I'm in a death metal band and I barely do what I do well. It took me many years to become a good death metal singer because I really wasn't when I joined the band. So I feel like I'm finally understanding death metal, but I'm very far away from black metal. So it's talking about the evolution of the genre and how much more freeing it is. You mentioned that Jenna always thought that you would like to have a lot of freedom, which makes sense as to how you're involved in black metal, because it's as if it's a genre that has like an elastic on it, where black metal is so many things more than it used to be.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question then?
The evolution of black metal and how you guys fall into that.
Well, when we started, we were really about more like post-hardcore doom stuff. But I think as a different musician, we all really enjoyed black metal, and I think it was quite natural for us to come pass from doom to something like more black metal, and it was at that time it was this like the second generation of black metal bands,
Exactly.
more atmospheric. Mostly from the US scene, actually, with this band Wolves in the Throne Room.
Yes.
Going all super hyped at that time. It was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I think we really fall in that pit of this second generation of black metal. But we wanted to do something more aggressive. Also all about the atmospheres, of course. But yeah, we wanted to keep something more hardcore, more chaotic. Some of us comes from very experimental, chaotic bands, and they're way more into stuffs like Dillinger or Butch.
Yes.
And I think there were also those kind of influences that was in the mix.
But I find it so interesting that the second wave of black metal, like I want to know that band that was like, I'm a black metal band, but I'm allowed to do whatever the fuck I want. And I think that's interesting because death metal is a little bit more rigid. Like there's so many gatekeepers that would say, oh, anything different is they sold out or they've changed. But black metal, the second wave, someone allowed it to happen and they did it well. And then many other people were inspired by that. And now there's this whole new realm of black metal. And I think it's so interesting.
But there's also a new realm of death metal, in my opinion. I mean, it's a really lively genre lately with, those bands like Tomb Mold.
Oh, yes, definitely. The Sanguisuga Bog, Undeath.
Exactly. It is so
Frozen
good.
Soul.
I love this band.
Yeah, absolutely. But that might see them closer to honoring what was done before.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what's happening with black metal, it's like they springboarded upon the aggressive nature of black metal and the satanism and the lyrical content and then the atmosphere and then adding all these layers of like post into it. I think it's very, very interesting. It's like a modern evolution of everything, and then better production, which is I tried to listen to black metal, but they like it to sound bad, and well, they liked it to sound the way they like it to sound, which is not something that I like things to sound like. So, on your Instagram, which I love, it says you're all about Satanism. I'm interested about this. So let's peel this back. Is that just a good line, or is there actually like a part of Satan that is a big important influence on the band?
Yeah, our Insta, it's Rorcal is about Satan and despair.
There it is. Yeah.
It's frankly, it's kind of a joke. You'll find nothing really satanic about us, and in more generally, I don't think we have like a message. We're really all about the aesthetics of what we want to do, like the music for the music, and what we want to create as aesthetics as an art.
You're like painting a sonic landscape.
Much more that than try to
convey a message,
an ideology.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really about that.
Because Satanism could be more so like about not following the rules, about pushing outside the boundaries, versus like Satanism, I love the devil.
No, yeah, exactly. We're maybe more about the fuck off Satanism than the worship the devil Satanism.
Exactly, which falls back into that. The label was surprised that you'd actually want to follow the rules. Are there any rules in black metal? Let's tie these two things together. I like this. Are there rules in black metal? Is there a box? And is the box ever going to quit expanding?
I think like in every genre, there are some codes, some pattern that you can observe. That what makes the genre, but I think black metals can be pretty wide.
Yeah, I think it's one of the widest extreme music categories, in my opinion.
And actually, lots of super black metal heads doesn't consider Rorcal as a black metal band.
Interesting. So has there been and this is a funny story, Cryptopsy got thrown onto Wolfzeit Festival, which is a very black metal festival. And we were playing and they did not like us. It was an experience. I won't tell the rest of the story because that's not for the podcast ears, but we had a crazy night that night. But so I understand that. How does that affect Rorcal? Is that a thing? Like you feel limitations with who you can tour with, or are there enough atmospheric black metal bands for that you guys been getting along fine?
I think the really essence of our band is just doing what we want to do, and I know it's cheap to say that.
No, I like that. I'm going to call the episode's going to be called that. Doing what they want with.
Which musician won't say that, right? I just want to play what I want to play.
It's true, but a lot of the times you get stuck within a framework, like Cannibal Corpse, let's say. I'm sure they play what they want to play, but they got to play Cannibal Corpse songs.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like you guys are in a bit more of a free atmospheric realm where you can throw in as much stuff as you want and there's less constriction.
Yeah. One thing is for sure, when it sounds too much like something we already write, we throw it in a bin.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's like sonically, like the landscape feeling, or like note wise or beat wise, like what?
It can be anything, but regular writing process for us is, but we already did that.
Okay, so it makes it tedious, and it seems like you guys have to struggle and fight it out until you get something fresh.
It's getting harder at every record
because there's more material to keep you. The bin is getting full though.
Sorry.
Do you keep the riffs in the bin though, or those ideas when you throw them away? Sometimes you bring them back.
There are somewhere in some hard drive somewhere.
Exactly. There'll be the hidden Rorcal album that comes out after the apocalypse.
Exactly. But again, you read some comments on our new record, and some people would say, "Yeah, it's Rorcal. They play Rorcal." So,
That's interesting. So yeah, there's a stamp of your identity, despite the fact that you're fighting to constantly create something new.
yeah,
That's cool. That it's like a thumbprint. That people know it's you, which is great.
yeah. Well, yeah, you can see it in the good way. It's great, like it's a conference.
I'm a very positive man, as you can see. Glass is always half full.
Cheers.
I like making collabs. I've made beer with Kahnawake before. I've released over 35 in the past year. I've released probably 80 since the creation of the podcast. I love beer. It's a big part of my identity. It might not work for Rorcal, but if you could create anything, create a collab, what would that be? The perfect Rorcal collab. For me, it's a beer, but for you, it could be something different.
I don't know.
Find something that you love, and then you can identify, people identify this with you.
Geez, I don't know. We were all about whiskey for years.
And then
Maybe
we got old.
whiskey.
A whiskey would be sick. What kind of whiskey? What was your poisons? Are you an Islay smoky whiskeys or?
Yeah, I used to be. I cannot drink whiskey anymore.
What
I don't
happened? What happened?
I lost the taste. I really lost the taste for it. But for years, yeah, it was all about Islay super peated whiskey. And yeah, but why not? Why not a Rorcal whiskey?
I think it'd be cool. If there's any distillers out there listening to the episode, shoot me a message. I'll put you in contact with Ron here, and you can create a Rorcal whiskey. It'd have to look real cool. That's my favorite part of all these projects that I do, is the aesthetic of it. I love
Have to be
creating
black, of course.
a black whiskey. Yes, with tears, a small child's tears in it. It's early 2024. Give some people the context of where we are as we're having this conversation. I would love to hear about, I call this my fight the hops question. What is a goal that you're working on right now, a short-term goal, something that you're hoping to accomplish within the next month, 2-3 months, something that's right there, something that if you put the work in, you will achieve it. What are you doing right now to fight the hops?
We're all on the booking right now.
Okay.
We have a tour. We're finishing the booking of a tour in April, and we're starting.
Nice. Is that all you? Like, you guys still do that DIY?
Well, it's the first time we don't.
Good, because that also a lot of work. And then like post-pandemic too, it's like all your contacts that you had before the pandemic hypothetically are not still doing what they were doing
exactly
before the pandemic. So, and venues are gone and yada yada yada.
I did the booking for the past 5 years, I think.
Wow.
So with before that, it was our former bassist.
That's why he quit, because booking a tour.
And now we have an agency for France and an agency for the rest of Europe.
Nice. Give them a shout out. Who are you working with now?
For France, this is the guy from an agency called 3C, and we're just starting working with Killtown for the rest of Europe.
Good. Hopefully they hop you on too. So the one you're doing in April, is that a headlining run?
We will. We haven't spoke about that. No, we will play with another Swiss band called Abraham from Pelagic.
Yeah, I love them too. Yeah, on Pelagic Records. Yeah.
Mostly Belgium and France, a little bit Switzerland also, and if everything goes right, in October we're touring with this Australian band called Low. Also
they're so good. They were #1 on Jimbo's list, if I remember correctly, from the review crew, the Vox&Hops crew. Love that record. There's a rat song. Something about rats is one of the songs. If I remember, Rat King or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's cool. That's going to be a good fit.
This is the near future for Rorcal. We really want to try to tour as much as possible in 2024. 24.
Hell yes. Well, if you, I would love to see you come over here. And if ever you do, we will come and hang out. I'm going over there soon, but I'm not sure I'm getting any close enough to you, sadly. I'm not sure. We're not hitting Geneva, sadly. I have played Geneva before, and I walked next to the water. It was in a huge venue next to the water, and I
Yeah,
walked
Usine.
down. Pardon? Usine, exactly.
The name is Usine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's a huge
stage.
fountain. I remember that. It was a good day. It was a good day. We played with Hierophant. It was a good day. One last question. Classic Vox and Hops wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you seem responsible, but hypothetically back when you were enjoying too much of those whiskeys, and if in the future, if that distiller makes you a black whiskey with children's tears in it, what is your hangover cure?
Drinking more. No. My drinking cure is being in pain and remember that I'm supposed to be more responsible of that and drown in guilt. This is my hangover.
That's a hangxiety. Sometimes you're hung. It's true. It's a real thing. Sometimes when you're hungover, you end up having an anxiety attack too that ropes into it called hangxiety. It's a true thing. Google it. But
I will.
2024. There's all kinds of things out there that affect us all the time. Ron, thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking a little bit about craft beer. Go check it out, people. Rorcal Silence came out September 29th. It was Jerry Monk's second top album of 2023. I'm sure you guys are going to like it too. Massive cheers, Ron.
Cheers. Thank you very much for having us.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome conversation. I love connecting with musicians that I've never met before, people that I've never had the pleasure of crossing paths with, whether I'm on the road or whether working here in Montreal and going to see shows. And I'm stoked that it's the album review crew that introduced me to another band. I just love this so much. Massive cheers to Jerry Monk for being a part of my life. I had a great chat with Ron. I really find it truly interesting, the artistic freedom that black metal has over death metal. It's something that I like to talk about with people that play that style of music. You may have noticed that with other podcasts that I've recorded with black metal artists. I think there's a lot of freedom in black metal. I think that it is extremely creative and artistic, and that they can truly paint a sonic landscape with their music, and that's exactly what Rorcal are doing. Massive cheers to Ron for sitting down with me, and I hope that his parents listened to this episode because we talked a lot about them. And if you did, cheers for encouraging your child to become a musician and supporting him and giving him opportunities to become a fantastic musician, which is exactly what he's become. Very stoked to hang out with Ron. Hopefully he comes out when Cryptopsy comes to Switzerland on the Unquestionable Blasphemy Tour alongside Atheists and Almost Dead. I'd be super stoked to see you there, Ron. Massive cheers. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast's mailing list. You could do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week that contains all of the details of everything that has happened in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You will get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You will also get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will get to hear about any projects I have in the works for the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, and you will also be updated on whatever I got going on with Cryptopsy. That's right. Cryptopsy, we just dropped our brand new album back in September of 2023, and we are doing a whole bunch of stuff. We are planning a massive 2024, starting with that European tour, the Unquestionable Blasphemy Tour with Atheists that's coming up at the end of February. It's running all across Europe until the end of March. You also get to see which albums the Vox and Hops album review crew have reviewed recently, and you will get to see which albums Jerry Monk, Vox and Hops' Metal Architect, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. There's always a lot of stuff going on in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, and I hate when you miss a single thing, so do me a favor and sign up to the mailing list. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week on Tuesday with yet another Heavy Montreal Presents Vox and Hops episode, but this time I will be with Ethan McCarthy of Primitive Man. But until then, I hope that you remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops. hits.